Now's as good a time of any haven't opened the wines and poured some to at least pop the corks and in a minute.
Thanks for arranging this. This was a great idea.
Absolutely. Thanks to Matt and Henry. He's got to get some props too, I guess.
All right, Henry.
It was my idea. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
After meeting Monsieur Rossignol, I guess, what was it, last year? About, was it 2 years ago?
I think it was 2 years ago now.
2 years ago, yeah. But so Monsieur Rossignol, we wanted you so bad to host a wine dinner, and then I got another job. So I didn't even get to see you when you were in the States hosting the wine dinner over at Baltimore Country Club. So I guess this is the next best thing.
Pretty late in France. Thank you for staying awake to share your wines with us.
Yeah, I was thinking about that
pleasure.
too.
I'm not, Rossignol means it's a little bird who's singing all the night. So I'm a bird of night. Don't worry.
Lucky for us. All right, well, I think we're waiting on two more still, but we can kind of get things rolling. We welcome everyone. Matt Friel here from Elite Wines is one of our most trusted reps, and he was kind enough to bring Mr. Rossignol in to do this tasting. So I'll kind of just turn things over to him, and he's going to get started.
I guess just repeat a few, heard this already, but haven't opened the wines you have. I would go ahead and pop the corks, and if you want to pour each a glass, I don't think any time is for the wines, but they're definitely going to be fun to kind of explore throughout the time that we're tasting and getting info from Mr. Rossignol. So what I'm going to do is put up a few maps, a few images, and be brief about introducing the lay of the land, so to speak. And then allow him to jump in and kind of turn things over to him, because this will be, I don't know, maybe there's time I've tasted with him, and I always learn a ton. It's always really fun to hear about the wines and hear about how he kind of perceives them when he's tasting them as the maker. And so outside of that, I'll get into things a little bit. I'm going to, like I said, put up a few maps here, but let's see. Nicolas was, let's see, your first vintage that was under Domaine Rossignol was in the 90s, 95? Am I correct 94. There? And so, he comes as a fifth generation winemaker, and as he once said to me, I think really well, he's not an up and comer, so it's kind of awesome to taste with him in the group, because his wines are pretty renowned, across the world, and they come from about 30 appellations of Burgundy. So you're asking me if I'm covering a bit of territory in the beginning that is everybody knows already, but Burgundy's in kind of the central but eastern part of France here. I'm zooming in right near Dijon. It's that red area. And, everybody kind of looks at Burgundy as really the main part's the Côte d'Or. And you have Chablis, kind of separate thing, connected but not connected. And the Côte Chalonnais and the Maconnais down here is also important, but really the Côte d'Or, this big strip here, is where it's at. This dividing line, the Côte de Nuit and the Côte de Beaune, is pretty important for, you know, when you talk about Burgundy wine, you can't talk about it and not overgeneralize, because there's so much specificity to each vineyard and to each site and to each producer. But in general, you know, there's some that you can kind of separate when it comes to the Côte de Nuit and the Côte de Beaune. And so I'll switch to another map here in a minute, but Nico's vineyards are right outside of Beaune here in Pommard and Volnay. And he has a few in Sauvigny-le-Beaune a little bit further north, and Pernan-Vergeley, and has kind of amassed a really amazing set of vineyards. So a lot of times when you see Burgundy maps, it's not uncommon for them to kind of rotate the orientation so that you see it as a line that goes from the south on the left-hand side to the north on the right-hand side. So even though we're switching this a little bit, it helps us look at the territory a little bit more easily. And so as we're going through these wines, they're really all about the specificity of that vineyard. I know that Nico told me that, you know, the vineyard name on there is the most important thing because he wants that to come through. And so, you know, we'll taste starting with the Sauvigny-le-Beaune, which comes from a vineyard right here. Alforno is split into a Premier Cru and a village level, which, if you're at all new to the classification system of Burgundy, just means the Premier Cru, that's denoted with a little 1 ER there, should indicate a more prized territory and by extension a better wine. That's not always true. There's plenty of exceptions to that rule, but that's the idea. And so his vineyard there there's not even necessarily a road separating it, but as he'll explain, he knows on his tractor when to kind of downgrade and shift his gear, because the terroir, the soil there, changes from that Premier Cru demarcation to the village level. So our first wine is from that village level, and it's 2017, which is a great forward drinking vintage that is really kind of fresh and vibrant from that perspective of that Sauvigny-le-Beaune. And then we'll jump to the Volnay village level here, which is, you see the Premier Cru in the middle, and Nico has bottlings from that, but there's a few vineyards, there's 5 vineyards that make up the Volnay bottling, the Luray, the Grand Champ, the Bout, all of those here, without getting too much specifics, are part of what makes that. And then some years, depending how the vintage is, he might put in one of his other Premier Cru vineyards. I know he's done that with like Taipei, if I'm not mistaken. But then we'll go into Pommard.
Just a quick second.
Yeah.
Just a quick. What do the hearts? What do the hearts mean in this little map?
Nico, those are just those indicate your bottlings, if I'm not mistaken, right?
The heart just means the wines Elite has got.
So those are the wines that
From me.
are yes,
Your
exactly.
favorites.
Those aren't all of the wines that he bottles. Those are the ones that we import into the States.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. The Les Vigneaux right here is what's called a lieu-dit as well. So it means it's a vineyard that is within that territory. It's recognized as a separate vineyard, but it's still in the general Pommard designation. So beyond that, pictures are always fun. So you have Sauvigny-le-Beaune here. There's Volnay from, if you use the Instagram and like the Instagram, please, you should follow Nico, because He's a really fun. He takes a lot of pictures of rocks. So for wine like myself, I love how he explains his different terroir of the different vineyards. That's his picture looking down from a higher spot in Volnay. And then this is the vineyard of Vigneault. This is not Nico himself, but this is from that higher spot on the hill. It's a different producer that shows you where in Pomar that specific vineyard is. And so with that, the sheet here, just to reiterate the kind of tasting order of things, the Sauvigny, Le Bon, the Volnay, the Pommard. But in terms of the way that I like to taste, I like to set them all out and try them in order and then go back and forth between them. This gives you a little bit of specifics about, you know, where things come from, the age of the vines, but then, you know, I'm going to let Nico talk a whole lot more about everything and lead everybody through the wines because, as I said, he's the guy to hear from. And, you know, without further ado, it's all yours.
Okay, so thanks everybody to be here with this Zoom session. It's great. You sure you need me because you already tell everything and you've got the map and you've got the text on each wine. So why I'm there?
Thanks for coming, everybody. Good night.
So first things I will show you. I want to show you that just behind me. This is the cellar, the barrel cellar.
Is that your living room?
It's not my living room, but I'm on the estate, and just behind me, you have the view. You have the view of the cellar. So inside the barrel right now, it's 19. We're gonna finish the bottling of 18 tomorrow, because 18. I'm gonna talking quickly about this vintage. It's completely different than from what we're gonna tasting tonight, but. For me, 18 needs more time, more aging. So that's why the bottling is quite late. I finished in June, as you can see. And also because I use the moon calendar for the bottling. So choose the best day. If it's fruit day or roots day, depends the type of terroir I've got. Today, the estate is about 20 hectares. The main part is Volnay-Pommard. But after that, my mother comes from Perlin-Vergelès, so that's why we have also some Perlin-Vergelès, Allos-Corton, and Savigny-les-Beaunes, and a few vineyards also in Beaune. The main production of the estate is red wine, Pinot Noir. I just produce one Aligoté, Bourgogne Aligoté for white wine, and one Bourgogne Chardonnay for also white wine. But the two only white wine I'm producing right now. We don't know in the future, but today is that. Also remember that Volnay and Pommard, they are the two only appellations. There is no white wine, only red wine. In Côte de Beaune, you can take any appellation, you're gonna find white and red. Chassagne-Montrachet red, Chassagne-Montrachet white. You're gonna find some Meursault red. There is not a lot, but it exists.
Okay.
You can find that. At the opposite, you can find some Allos-Corton white. You can find that. Again, there is not a lot, but you can find that. Volnay and Pommard, it's only red wine. Never, never, never white wine. Never. So after that, so today we're gonna talking about 3 wines. Really interesting. It's gonna be one part of the spirit of the state. I'm lucky to have it depends the year, but between 30 to 35 different wines, different terroirs, and I keep them all of them separate for keep the personality of each wine. So it's fun because we're talking. Now, you know, it's same story than you. It was a quarantine, so not so much easy. Now people restart to come to the estate, and we have a tasting 2 days ago, and we're talking about that, about the style of the estate. And I said, if you start to smell the glass and you say, okay, I recognize this is a Nicolas Rossignol wine, I made a mistake. I mean, because I'm lucky to have 8 different Volnay Premier Cru, 8 different Pommard Premier Cru, two different Savigny-les-Beaunes Premier Cru, 3 different Beaune Premier Cru. So what I want is to keep the personality and the spirit of each really different. So that's why with my wine, you can find some really delicate, fruity and charming, but also in the same time, you can find some really rich and powerful wine, just because I haven't got the same type of soil. And the main part in Burgundy, you know, is clay and limestones. So after that, the percentage of clay and limestones can change. So that's going to give you a different type of wine. Most of the time, when you are in the clay, you bring the charming, you bring the warm to the wine. When you are in limestones, you bring the tight and more freshness, and also a touch sometime of rustic expression you're going to see with a Pommard les Vignoux. So to start the tasting with the Savigny-les-Beaunes. Savigny-les-Beaunes, like Matthew told you, in fact, my village is just under my Premier Cru. There is a little break in the slope, and in fact, the part of the village is more flat, and the part of the Premier Cru is a little bit more with a bigger slope. Just because in the Premier Cru, we still, you know, in Savigny-les-Beaunes, if we go back to the map, you will see there is 2 hills. And here, on this place, les fourneaux, fourneau means oven. So it's a quite warm place, always. And just because on that place, because of the erosion of the two mountains, you have many sediments in the bottom. And Les Fourneaux is here. So it's a quite nice draining soil, and you keep the warmth of the day most of the time in the night. That's why it's called Les Fourneaux, because it's a warm place. And you get a beautiful maturity quite fast. But on the Premier Cru, you have a lot of limestones, and that's give you more spacey flavor in the Premier Cru. And when you in the break of the slope, when you get the clay with the village, it's more deep soil. It's more you haven't got the same draining. That's why I was in a few vintage ago, when I saw the grapes of the village, I said, wow, it's just perfect. So normally for me, the village is always 100% distem, because of course, except the price, there is a difference between the village and the Premier Cru. Most of the time, the grapes from the Premier Cru are more complex. So that's why it's Premier Cru, and the village grapes are more simple. But it's nice. It's a more simple expression of the appellation. And in fact, the view of the grape was so great. Very small berry, very teeny berry. So I decided to put some wall clusters. The view was so perfect. And in fact, the view is one thing, but what is inside is different. And that's, even if it's just 5 meters between the village and the Premier Cru, it's not the same type of soil. And when we're plowing the soil with the tractors, we can really feel that. I mean, the part with the limestones, you can plowing the soil, and the soil still like sand, really aerian. When you move and you go to the clay, straight, you have a more heavy soil. So in fact, the vineyards can really growing easily in the heavy soil, because there is a lot of things. You keep more water, you keep a lot of nutriment. So that's why the grapes are less complex. So that's why most of the time it give you a wine more simple than the Premier Cru. Well, after that, with the Pommard les Vignoux, we're gonna talk. My talking gonna be a little bit different here. So with the Savigny, and I'm also so really happy with the vintage 17. For me, you are really compare 17 to the 2 next will arrive, 18 and 19. It's a completely different style of wine. I mean, 17, you are in a really classic Burgundian style. I mean, you can have red fresh fruit, nice acidity, It's sweet because it's we had a beautiful maturity, but you keep a lot of freshness and a lot of nice acidity at the end of the palate. So it's refreshing you. You're gonna finish your glass, you're gonna want to empty the bottle. At the opposite, the two next, 18 and 19, gonna be definitely warmer, and they're gonna feed you, but they're gonna maybe feed you too much. I mean, the vintage 18 particularly will need more time. I mean, aging a little bit to have the real expression of the terroir. With 17, if I'm back in the past, for me 17 is a little bit like 02, and 18 is a little bit like 03. You can imagine the really big difference between these two vintage. You're gonna really feel that also in the wine. Today, 7-Eleven 17 is the perfect view of what is 7-Eleven, what is classic Burgundian style, because you are in a red fresh fruit, nice acidity, and that's the spirit of the Savigny you expect most of the time. When you move to Volnay or Pommard, it's more spicy and it's more complex. Savigny, I don't want push too far the extraction of the wine because there is a limit with the terroir, and I don't want to go over the limit.
Just a question. What made 17 so different from 18, 19, or vice versa? Was it your climate that year, rainfall? What made it so different?
Alors, two things. First, the yield of the vineyards. To be honest, we had a very good yield, and then after less warm and less sun. We had the light, but a little bit more cloudy. So in fact, we get a nice maturity, but we keep a cold night in 17. That's why, in fact, when you have the difference temperature between the night and the day, you keep the acidity. To protect the grapes, to protect against the sun, again, the warm, in fact, the grape is going to burning the acidity. And that's what happens in 18. 18, the pH are very high. It's a very low acidity. The balance is more, to be honest, look like more, for me, Côte du Rhône than really Burgundian type. 19 is going to be a nice mix between 17 and 18. Because you're going to have the powerful of the 18, but the freshness of the 17.
And so the 19 vintage would be what you might describe as the optimal vintage in terms of growing conditions and the quality of the grape?
For me, 19 will be one of the best vintage we made from the now many vintage, many years.
Thank you.
And how about 16, 15, 14? Go back a few years.
16, it was, we had a big damage in Burgundy by the frost. And not specifically on Volnay and Pommard, but many parts of Burgundy was damaged. Chambol-Musigny was near destroyed. At the opposite, Gevrey-Chambertin, they had full of grapes. So that's why on 16, you can find really different style of wine. You can find some charming, gentle, if the yield is here. And for some where you have a very, very low yield, you back to really concentrate wine. So it's still really fruity because it's quite young. The maturity was great, but today I can start to find some 16 start to close a little bit. And I think for the future, they're going to close completely. 17 at the opposite, the wine is so balanced. I mean, it's you have the maturity, but you have the fineness in the same time. You have the powerful. The wine is very, very balanced. It's appreciable right now. You don't have to age 10 years to enjoy. And I don't think the wine is going to close. In fact, each time you have a big vintage with big structure, at one moment, because of all this density of the wine, at one moment the wine closes. And you have to wait a little bit. And waiting for and open again after that. 17, I don't think 17 is going to go to that way.
Nicolas, it's Cliff Ransom. One of the wonderful things about being a wine drinker for 60 years is that I learn new words every year. I don't know what you mean when you say it closes.
Alors, closes means at one moment, the wine you can open the wine and you serve, and it doesn't smell so much. You put in decanter, and after 1 hour, okay, it's better, but it's not completely open. I mean, it's it's the difference between a flower and the flower you just smell. It's a lot of perfume. So many ones gonna be like that. And when you goes to blackberry or blueberry, it's a fruit, very dark, but it's not blue cherry. Blue cherry is really juicy and open, and a lot of perfume also. Blackberry, most of the time, okay, it's very dark, but it's close.
Got it. I understand. Thank you. Very helpful.
I have a question, Nico. What is the life of the 19? How long can you keep it in your cellar, age-wise?
18?
The 19 or 17. What is the life?
Alors, that's exactly what I told you. Each vintage are different. I mean, for 17, everything was near bottling in January or beginning of February, the 1 year after, 1.5 years after. Here we are in June, and I'm just bottling. I'm not finished the bottling of the 18. I mean, just because the more you have thickness in the wine, the more you have density in the wine, the more I have to waiting for the aging to get the elegance. And to be honest, at the beginning, 18, I was not so pleased with the vintage. For me, it was too much and really heavy. And now I'm starting to enjoy. So that's the joke between me and my left hand. I call him, my friends who works with me, I call him my left hand. He's more focused. He's a strong guy. So he's more focused on the 18. He said to me, 18 is better than 17. And I prefer the elegance of 17. But to be honest, now with the time, 18 will be very interesting.
So can you sit on it for 10 years? It'll still be good in 10 years? That kind of a life?
Sure, for sure. If it's not, you can give me back the wine. Don't worry.
Okay.
This is really tasty. This is really good. And it holds, it's very even. It's very even.
I think that when it comes to at least some of, most of Nico's wine specifically, you're drawing out the age that you can cellar it. I mean, it's like that with producers who make good Burgundy. In it, I've heard, I think it was him who said, you don't test yourself as a vinter making 2015, which was one of the greatest vintages was ever in my lifetime has been in Burgundy. You test yourself when the vintage is not how you do it. And so those wines, you're always talking about a relative scale where probably, like he just said, kind of 5 to 10 years should be always okay for the wine. And please correct me if I'm wrong, Nico, but then when you get to then you're talking about is year wine, is 20, 30, 50-year wine. But that's kind of the quality of terroir that he's working with. Even the vintages that are not so perfect or just good, they're gonna last a long time, even if it's like a surface level wine.
I can't tell you if it's correct or not. I just heard one word on 2 words. So.
Thanks.
What about the Volnay? It's the second one, level Volnay, the 16.
Hold on a minute. I'm still drinking the first one.
You can go back and forth. There's no.
We will. Thank you.
Nico, what about this guy?
Oh, where'd he go?
Internet problem.
It looks like it's frozen.
Okay.
Ah ouais.
There we go. He's
There
back.
he is.
There it is.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
We try this one? Let's do this one.
So, everybody tasted the Savigny?
Yes.
Right? Okay. So second wine will be Volnay Village. So on the Volnay Village here, I decided. Oh, I didn't tell you, but Savigny-les-Beaunes is a single vineyard, and I didn't put the name on because it's exactly the same name than the Premier Cru. So that's why I just leave the name Savigny-les-Beaunes. That's it. Okay. Most of the time, I put the name of the soil on the Premier Cru, not often on the village, except you will see after that with the Pommard. So here with the Volnay Village, it's a blend of 5 different vineyards. 4 come from down of the slope under the Premier Cru, so in the clay. So that's going to give you the beginning of the wine, the beginning of the taste of the wine, very round, very charming. That's come from the clay. And 1 part come from the top of the mountain on the limestones, really white soil above the Premier Cru. So I pick them separate. Of course, the picking, the maturity, the ripeness of each grapes are not exactly the same. So most of the time is between 2, when it's a hot vintage, to 5 days difference. So I pick them separate. I make the vinification separate, and I blend in the barrels for the aging. So 60% of the cuvée come from the top of the mountain, so come from the limestones. So again, on the top of the mountain, you can imagine because of the erosion, on the top of the mountain, you are really close to the mother rock. So it's very white soil. That's why on this wine, you can find a part of chalky flavor, chalky tannin at the end. It's a little bit like powder. And you haven't got a lot of clay. So the vineyard's growing, but sometimes it's quite hard. The lucky part is a quite late part. So in fact, with the global warming, in fact, this terroir increase the level each year. Just because normally it's a late vintage, it's a late terroir. You have to waiting for longer. But now with the weather we have a lot of sun, a lot of hot temperature. So in fact, what was in the past a trouble for this terroir, I mean, to get a nice level of sugar, in fact today is a benefit because it keep a lot of freshness in the grapes. So that's 60 parts of the cuvée come from this top of the mountain, and the rest come from down of the slope in the clay. So very close to the Premier Cru, but on village. And in fact, to be honest, if I just have these parts, I'm going to use some wall clusters. But because I know at the end I'm going to mix the 2 cuvées, I prefer the stem 100%, the 2 parts, because naturally from the energy from the top of the mountain, I'm going to have the freshness and the length of the wine for this cuvée. Voilà.
Now, is that blend what you do every year for your Volnay?
Oui.
So you do the 60% as best you can, or the majority of the grape from the top?
Alors, en fait, it's not a blend like in Bordeaux. I'm not selected that. I'm not making a blend like, okay, I want 30% of that, 70% of that, or just to mix. No, the spirit is, I keep the blend of the terroir. So normally the size is 60% from the top and 40% down. After that, if there is a trouble with I don't know, the frost or something different, because of the yield, the percentage can change a little bit. But at the end, I always blend the two parts.
And Nico, is that?
In fact, to be honest, I keep them separate in 2002, to understand how far I can go. And in fact, so pick separate, fermenting separate, aging in barrel separate, and bottling separate. My trouble was the clay was so charming, so round, easy, and you have to go and you can drink quickly. And the part from the limestones were more close and more compact, so you need more time. So the trouble was because I don't want to put a specific name on that. You can find a Volnay charming and one Volnay more tight. So at the end, I just made that one time. I said no, finish. Now I'm blend and I make a cuvée, and you have the spirit of a village. For me, is the expression of the appellation. So in fact, it's not a specific like premier cru, like a premier cru. It's a nice expression from down of the slope and top of the mountain. So you have the expression of the total appellation for me.
And then, Nico, so this is the blend that you have here. So this is a 16. So tell us about 17, 18. What's in the bottle right now? What can we expect over the next year to 2 years?
Alors 16 is quite serious. Feminine, elegant, delicate. Here, I just produced 5 barrels. I think you have the number total production on the label. You can see.
Right, 1491. I think is what we have. Yeah. Wow, only 1,400 bottles.
Frost, okay? Normal production is about 10 to 12,000 bottles. It's not the same story. Huh?
Okay, so Nico, we just missed you for a second due to the maybe a technical. No, that's quite all right. So 17, 18. Tell us. Can you review that again?
Alors, I told you, 16 is a very small production because of the frost.
Yep.
So the wine is a little bit more compact. On 17, the same wine on 17 going to be more classic Volnay. It's going to be more elegant, more delicate, a little bit more maybe light if we're talking like that. But in fact, it's not light like watering. No, it's more elegance, more flowing flavor. And that's what I told you. If I produce just 1,400 on 16, I produce 10,000 in 10,000 to 12,000 in 17. Huh? It's not the same story. Huh? So that's why also you have more elegance in 17 and 18. You back to richness and powerful because of the vintage. But I never make a really light Volnay because of these blends and this part from the top of the mountain gives so much powerful and so much energy to the Volnay.
It's really good. Thank you.
So Nico, tell us about it, not to get us off track too much, but you mentioned global warming and how it's changed the maturation of some of your grapes and it's helped Volnay. I've read some articles about Bordeaux being concerned with some of the grapes there not being able to survive global warming to the extent it continues on its current path, and new grape varieties might need to be used. How do you see global warming affecting the Pinot Noir grape and the Côte d'Or and Burgundy?
Alors, first to understand better and to understand what happens, it's you can imagine my grandfather used to pick the grapes end of October. My father used to pick the grapes end of September. Today, I will pick the grapes for 2020 I will pick the grapes end of August, and it's going to be the 6th time I pick the grapes in August. So yes, something changed and something happens, and the global warming is that. To be honest, after that, a few years ago, I'm talking with Michel Lafarge. You know, I'm sure everybody knows Michel Lafarge from Volnay. And Michel told me that he said, you know what, it's not politically correct, but to be honest, because he knows, of course, he knows the 50s, the 60s, when they pick the grapes and was not so much easy, and when it's 10 degrees alcohol maximum, that was the maximum they can get, because they were at the big end of October, beginning of November. So not a lot of sugar will come after that, except if you want to make some Sauterne, but it doesn't work in Volnay. He said now, in fact, the global warming bring us better things than bad things. And understand what it means. It means the maturity. Today, when I'm starting, so now I'm 26 different vintage. Okay, so I'm start to be old now. I'm not a racing star, not anymore. When I started to work with my father, he was always stressed about the level sugar. Do you think we're gonna get the minimum level sugar? Now there is more than 10 years. I'm not making any analysis of sugar. I know I'm gonna have the minimum level. My way now is the level alcohol is higher and higher. Now, to be honest, for many years we put 13 on the degrees alcohol on the label. Well, it's not true. Huh? For many years now, the level is higher and higher. And at the end, Mr. Trump helped us to be more honest. Because of the tax, now we have to change the label and put 14.1, 14.2, and there is no tax, so it's perfect. But it's more true, to be honest, with 18 and 19 is exactly, the level is 14.5 or 14.8. So that's the way. After that, what's going to be the impact of in the vineyards? We're not going to take off the Pinot Noir to planting some Syrah or some Cabernet, definitely not. I think we have to change our farming. That's the way, because from my grandparents to my father, everybody thinking, pushing more far to get more sugar. Today it's the opposite way. So we have to thinking the replanting, the selection, completely different, and the farming. Today we keep higher level of canopy, high level of leaf to protect the grapes, to not burning by the sun. So more than start thinking different clones, because you know the vineyards can growing between the stones, can growing everywhere. So more than that, change all of that. I think we have to change our way, our farming, how we manage the vineyards, and that's after that the vines, the vineyards can adapt better than us with the weather.
I didn't know that there was a.
Thank you.
Is it a progressive tax for the higher alcohol, or is it above a certain threshold?
It's a mistake for the moment. Don't tell them. If the level of alcohol is higher, there is no tax.
The higher the level, no tax.
Yeah.
Wait.
Interesting.
I didn't know that. Okay, interesting.
So Nico,
So that's why you're gonna find many labels. You're gonna find many labels with 14 point something now.
is Premier Cru higher than Grand Cru, Nico? Is Premier
Sorry?
Cru a higher rated wine than Grand Cru?
Yeah.
Or is that the same? Did you hear
Tell
me?
me again the question.
So is Grand Cru the top, or is Premier Cru the top, or are they
No,
the same?
Grand Cru. No.
Grand Cru is the
You've got-
highest.
Ouais. You've got the basic is Bourgogne Pinot Noir, Bourgogne Chardonnay. Then you have Village Appellation. just Meursault, just Gevrey-Chambertin. Then you have Premier Cru, Volnay, Premier Cru, Cailleret, Pommard, Premier Cru, Epno. And then when you move to Grand Cru, you forget the appellation. In fact, the Grand Cru is just the name of the soil. Is Musigny, is Montrachet, is Corton Charlemagne. It's not a name of appellation and a name of a soil. When it just Richebourg is the name of the soil. It's not it's on Vaune Romanée, but it's not Vaune Romanée Richebourg. No, it's Richebourg. So that's why it's Grand Cru.
Grand Cru. Okay. Thank you.
So Nico, going back to the question about alcohol content, the Volnay tastes like it has a bit more alcohol than the Sauvignon Le Bon. Is that correct?
No.
It's the same.
No,
It
it's
says
not
it's
the
on
same
bottle.
vintage. It's not the same vintage. So that's why also it tastes really, really different. So, but if we compare the same vintage, it's not necessarily you're going to feel more alcohol in the Volnay, but the Volnay will be more complex for sure. I mean, it's a little bit more spicy. It's the terroir of Volnay is more complex. The soil is more complex than the terroir of Savigny-les-Beaunes. And again, it's not just a question of price between the two wines. It's also if there is this difference of price, there is a real reason. The quality of the soil and the quality of the wine are not the same, honestly.
So are you saying that your 2018 is going to be like a 14%, above 14% alcohol? And that's because of the regulation. Yeah, isn't that interesting?
No, mais naturally, so Elite asking me about that, and I said, no, mais to be honest, even the basic Bourgogne Pinot Noir, the level is 14, is more than 14. And I've got some wines, is 14.8. But we tasted 2 days ago, few 18 already bottled. And, you know, in the past, people are asking us about the price of the wine. Today, people are asking us about the level of alcohol in the wine.
No kidding.
It's true.
Really?
You have some journalist comes to you and say, what is the level of alcohol in that? What? You feeling alcohol? No. It's burning you? No. If I tell them it's 14.5, oh, no, it's too much alcohol. No. But you feel that? No. Alors, so why are you asking me that? No, but is the question now with the global warming and with all of that. And sometimes with a wine on 13 alcohol can burn you with too much alcohol. Why? Because if it's peaked at 10 and you have
So I think if I was going to read where Nico was going correctly there, he was talking about the balance in the wine. He's not making wine above 14% to get around the tariff, but exactly. At the same time, if you're feeling the alcohol from a wine, like he said, if you pick it at 10% and it's called chaptalization, if you add sugar to get it to 13%, you're going to feel that alcohol. And there are plenty of people who are in a position to have conversations because of the tariff in place right now about should we go above a certain percentage. Luckily, Nico is not one of them. His wines are just because of what he's been talking about with the ripening of the grapes and the amount of sugar they already have in them. They are above 14. But there's plenty of people who are saying, I'm going to push it above 14 because I have the ability to do that, and it's really important to do that right now. He is not one of those, though.
No. Why is he not labeling them more accurately then? Why is he not labeling them at 14?
Because these arrived to the States earlier. You know, these in our warehouse long before that tariff, but also Europeans in general, alcohol. It's mostly the American market that you just don't even consider a tariff, they would be the ones who care about alcohol. But the only reason it's mattered before the tariff was to, like he was saying with the journalist, if you say there's 13.5%, that's good for a European market. And a lot of people, because there's leeway you have legally to put it on there. So you'll see tons of, I never trust the alcohol percentage of wine because there's tons of reasons for them to say something different, unless typically it's so specific that there's no reason for them to lie. Like if I see a wine that says 14.23 alcohol, that's them telling you, I've tested this, I know exactly what it is, I want to tell you. Other than that, before now, most people would label their wines under alcohol to sell to a European market, as opposed to accurately of that alcohol level. Because most wines nowadays are above, 13.5, but you see plenty of 13.5s and 14s and even 13s on a label that have you can just taste more alcohol than that.
So from a process perspective, so wines that are in the States that are being resold by a distributor, has the tariff been paid?
Yeah, it happens. We pay it once the wine hits.
Okay. So it's the forward, basically it's the forward versions that are coming that the tariff may be.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So ideally that tariff will go away. We're not anyway in an ideal world right now, so.
Yeah.
Nico, it's Cliff again. May I ask a different kind of question?
Please, yes.
I'm fortunate in that a lot of the bottles in my cellar are very old. They're kind of all over the lot, but they're old. And I have the distinct impression that the overwhelming majority of Americans drink their wine way too young. They never give it a chance to develop kind of in the interesting ways. I'm not saying you should let them get as old as some of mine have, but the idea would you get these people in California drinking this stuff that's 2 years old, and they're saying how wonderful this is. And I know the grape, and I say, if you gave this another 8 years, you'd have something that would be 3 times as good. Do you think I'm overreacting, or do you think that's a problem in the U.S.?
No, it's not a problem in US. It's a problem in the world.
The Chinese, I think, started it because
don't worry. Huh? Hey, last weekend I've been at one of my favorite restaurants in Beaune, Maison du Colombier, and I crossed some good friends producer, and they just ordered 17 and 18. I said, hey guys, why you drinking a baby like that? And I know on the list I've got some of my wine, and it's 13, it's 14, and it's 08. Said why did you didn't choose that? You can imagine the producer also drink too early because said no, but it's fruity. I mean it's fruity. If you enjoy fruity wine, there is some other area make that better and less expensive and less expensive. So forget. We are in Burgundy, so more than just fruity, and fruity is the Pinot Noir. Okay, we use the Pinot Noir to extract from the soil the flavor. And you're right when you said when it's exactly when it's young, you have the expression of the grapes. But after a while, if you're waiting for 5 years, the wine's gonna change. The flavor gonna change, and you're gonna get more complexity. And the second point now we have to educate people to go back. Okay, I can understand. At one moment, if you open your bottle too late, you're gonna be disappointed, and it's completely oxidized. And okay, it's a shame. So you change, and you said, okay, I'm gonna open the bottle earlier to keep the fruit. And at one moment in Burgundy, the 70s and the 80s. It's a nightmare. Me the first, I don't want to open a bottle if I don't know the producer. But now it's changed completely, and we're back to what we had to never leave. I mean, in the 50s, you can find some 50s or 40s in Burgundy. They are incredibly young. and the complexity of these wines are completely. You can get this complexity without the aging.
Yep, I'm still drinking things from the 60s, you know, that's just mind-bogglingly good. Every once in a while, you open it up and you're very disappointed. But if you've got a lot of wine, it's not a big deal.
If you have 61, 64, 66, 69, it's amazing vintage.
You know, I have some 67 Bordeaux, which was reputed to be a terrible year in Bordeaux. But I drank it, 67 Bordeaux, a terrible year.
Where? I can't understand.
Oh, yeah,
Where?
I'm very sorry. I forgot. I can talk about La Tâche and Echezeaux, but I can't talk about...
Okay. I understand.
But it opened with great complexity. Now, it didn't last very long, but it was fun to drink because it was so different.
Hey, Cliff, if you need some help, we'll come over and do the next tasting at your house.
Let me tell you, guys,
Cliff, send the address, will you?
I can't find.
Yeah, please.
I need people to come help me drink this stuff. I'm getting old. Otherwise, it's going to go to my son. I don't want that to happen. Okay.
I mean, you know, after that, it take time, and it's a real experience to enjoy old wine and understand old wine. What is old wine? With the complexity of the wines, and of course, you're gonna lose the red fresh fruit, the acidity, and the powerful of the wine. But you're gonna get so much complexity. You're gonna get so much better things after that.
Nicolas, so the Volnay seems to me to be softer, easier versus the first, which actually was more consistent and a little I'm going to use the term sharper, but it was sharper. That's the only word I could use. And how would you compare the two so far in terms of what you would?
And again, in the Volnay, you have more complexity of the soil, so that's and because it's 16, so it's riper. So that's why you have a lower acidity. So that's why it give you all this charming, all this roundness to the wine. For the first wine, 7-11 on 17, you have a higher acidity. So that's why it's a little bit sharper, yes.
Yeah.
And again, to be honest, right now we're just tasting the wine. The best is to be on the table and eating with.
Yeah.
The pairing.
I've got some food.
Great. Yeah. The pairing with the food is always more interesting than the wine alone.
Yeah. Okay, so what would you put with this? With these two so far?
What?
What would you pair with these wines? What are your favorite things to drink?
One of my friends from Bordeaux, I've got some friends in Bordeaux, enjoy to with my wine to take some pizza. So each time you take a pizza, I take a picture with my wine. I said, "Oh,
I love it." The pizza,
you know,
it's great.
The pairing is, to be honest, depend of you. Depend of your palate, what you want to do. You know, to be honest, with the first one, with the 7-11, you can enjoy with some fish. Because of the acidity of the wine, you can imagine the acidity of white wine. And when I'm traveling in Japan, we used to drink some Pinot Noir to go with a fish, and you can enjoy.
Absolutely.
So next wine, Pommard. Pommard les Vigneaux. Pommard les Vigneaux is a specific. So, like I told you, with the Volnay, it's a blend of different vineyards, and I don't put any name of terroir on the label. With Pommard les Vigneaux is a single vineyards, and it's a specific soil. For me, les Vigneaux, for us, you've got les Vigneaux and you've got les Noisons. It's higher level than just a village. So it's something in between village and premier cru. You have this also this experience on the Meursault. Meursault, les Tessons. For us, les Tessons is a higher level than just Meursault. So here with Pommard Les Vigneaux, my neighbor is Madame Leroy, La Loubise Leroy. Les Vigneaux is south exposition and very high in a mountain, in a slope, with a lot of white soil. So lot of white soil. So you have the maturity of the exposition, sorry, and you have the freshness of the terroir. So it's a nice mix between these. And here I use 30% of wall clusters. Because for me,
30% of what? I'm sorry.
Yeah, 30, what was that?
wall clusters, full bunch, no distem, no crush. I take the grapes and I put like that in a vat for 30%, and 70% is distem. So 30% with the stem, with everything. And what I want with that is a slow fermenting inside the berry. In fact, you're gonna feel that at the end of the tasting. When you finish, when you swallow the wine, the length, and the wine gonna turn and turn and turn and turn. And that's what brings the wall clusters. To understand better, for me, wall clusters is like, cooking fish or meat, low temperature for a long time. It's great, huh? You have more texture, more perfume. It's definitely more interesting. But do you think we must cook all the fish and all the meat like that?
So
try a scallop 4 hours in the oven. It's not going to be a good result.
Yeah.
Sometimes just it's perfect. That's it.
So Nico,
and that's why I use some wall clusters on specific terroir, and for some other is 100% distem.
Nico, my apologies. First of all, your English is fantastic, and maybe I hear wall clusters. I'm just trying to all clusters. How do you? I just want to make sure I understand that.
Whole clusters.
Whole cluster. Okay, so the whole. Okay, got it. Thank you very much, Rachel.
And Nico, so Les Vigneaux is not a Premier Cru vineyard?
No, it's not a Premier Cru. It's a village.
Would it be a candidate at some point to become Premier Cru?
No.
Why is that?
Doesn't change. Ask him again, because I'd love to hear the answer.
Yeah, me too. He's got to come back.
I'm gonna move. I'm gonna move. You're gonna lose the view.
That's okay. We want to have the view of you. There you go. Are you okay now?
Yeah.
So, Nico, are you there?
Yeah.
Good. So my question is, a vineyard like Les Vigneaux.
Vigneaux is not Premier Cru, and is not gonna be. To be honest, change a village to Premier Cru.
Right. So there's nothing that can happen at Les Vigneaux that would make it a Premier Cru vineyard. Cliff, maybe you can ask the question.
No, it's just his
his
internet. Ask again.
I think he's probably told the answer a few times.
I know, but we've missed the answer each time, Nico. The question was, why doesn't what does it take to elevate? Well, we're lost it again.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I can understand.
The classifications don't change. And the classifications are from, pick a number, 1869 or something.
Absolutely right. Yeah. So, but conditions can change. I mean, they can change. Yeah.
They can, and we get Nico back a
money will be transferred on one.
There's a lot
and
on that are kind of recognized as somewhere in between. And so you have Les Vigneaux is one of them, with Nico and Leroy making that are excellent. You also have some of his crus in Volnay, like if there were to be a Grand Cru ever, they're thought of as some of the best Premier Crus. So there is like, you know,
Right.
within, but go ahead, Nico, if you're back, please.
Alors, it's okay?
Okay.
We're okay.
So yes, so no. Pommard les Vigneaux is not Grand Cru. It's not Premier Cru. It's just village. To move some village to Premier Cru is definitely not easy. But the question today in Pommard is to move the Pommard Epno and Pommard Rugien from Premier Cru to move to Grand Cru.
Oh, really?
Right.
Yes.
But it's never gonna happen. Don't worry.
Yeah.
When's
I
the
would think
last?
that would be much more difficult to go from Premier to Grand.
It's gonna take many years, and at the end it's not possible. Just you have to take that. Well, the most easy is to have the analysis of the soil. After that, you have to show the wines for many years is better than the other Premier Cru to move to Grand Cru. Why not? But after that, you have to all the producer, all the owners must be okay with that. and
Good luck on that.
And the other producer of Grand Cru must be okay with that.
Yeah.
So they're
It's
gonna
not
say
gonna
no,
happen.
no, no.
It's not gonna happen.
We keep our club of Grand Cru. You don't need to come to the club. Stay with your Premier Cru.
I love it.
But after that, to be honest, what is the best? To have a high Premier Cru or a small Grand Cru?
High Premier Cru.
No, it's the way you
Yeah.
feel that day.
It could be, yeah, right.
So, to be honest, I've got some Pommard Epno. So we don't know if one day is going to be Grand Cru, but I already put the price of a Grand Cru, so don't worry.
I guess to throw out there for, you know, we're tasting these 17 and 16s, obviously. We have a tiny bit of 13, 14s that we have in our warehouse because there's no reason not to keep them. You know, if you're interested, you can reach out to Rachel or Henry. And also for these wines, since they have the license now was changed with the pandemic, they can sell wine directly to you without, you know, corking it or anything like that. So if you enjoy these wines, they're giving them for as close of direct price as they can do. You know, they're going to be a better price than you get from a wine store. You had interest in, you know, a lot of these. Like I'm definitely have some 15s, buy some 19s. I have kids in those years, but if you have an interest, I mean, part of the reason that these are nice is because it fits that category of wine of it's not too early to open them, but they could use a few years. It's the things.
Right.
So with that regard, I think you know, it's a fun line of taste.
So tell us about the 13, 14, 15s that you have.
I mean, we have, I think 13, I always think of 13 as for the radar year because it wasn't written a lot about, but it's a little cheaper than other years and it's ready sooner than, you know, than some things. Like the Pommard that he was talking about, the Eppen, we only do like essentially the best bottlings that Nico makes. We have a few of those from 13 and 14, the Epno and the Volnay. But we took them out when he was here the last time. I thought they were pretty damn good, but that's you know.
The ones that you have, are they the same appellations as we're drinking now?
Just we only have a few of his kind of best appellations, the Pommard Epino and the Volnay Cailleret. So have Rachel out a list of the wines that you tasted tonight and what you can get through her, and I'll have her add on
Great.
those couple because they're very. We have maybe, you know, 20 or 30 bottles left in our warehouse. So
Matthew, where is your store?
I have a store.
You're a distributor.
Yeah, we work out of Virginia.
Got
so.
it. Okay.
No,
but
I think he
don't
was
worry,
asking, I think he was asking exactly what the address is because he's going to hop into his car and he's going to get some.
Gentlemen,
All right,
in case
Rachel,
you
Rachel, you're
noticed-
going to have to divide it up among us.
in case
Yeah,
you
that's right,
noticed-
Peter.
Yeah,
I hear you,
exactly.
Peter.
You drive,
Don't
and
let
then
Cliff take it
we'll
all.
distribute. We'll figure out who gets what.
Yeah.
I'm not drinking the wine because my doctor said after my neck fusion last week I couldn't drive, so I'm picking up my wine next week, and I'll tell you.
Well,
that.
Cliff, Landon and I will pick it up for you and come to your house and help you with some of your old stuff.
You all have an open invitation. Anytime you're in Fells Point, just let me know. Give me 2 days notice so I can stand them up. Nico, Elliot, Nico, Matthew, Rachel, thank you all very much. I have to go. This has been very much fun. Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks a
for joining.
lot.
Appreciate it.
Careful.
I was gonna say if you know, I thank you very much, Nico, for taking time late in the night. But the thing I was taking on my phone, believe it, because every time I hear something, the way you describe something, it's kind of he finds words in his second or third language that are more appropriate than the words I find for the wine. So I love listening to him. But you know, thank you very much, and you know, it's always a pleasure, Nico.
So Nico, do you
Thanks
come
to
to the
everybody.
U.S.
It was a
often?
real pleasure.
Thank
Nico,
you.
do you-
Thank you so much.
Do you come to the
Can we
U.S.?
let's get Nico to the U.S.
Can we bring Nico?
Yeah, next time he's inside, we'll have to get him to the club.
We'll have a special dinner.
Definitely, for sure.
That sounds like
Right.
a perfect plan.
Deal.
You know, and it would be even better if we had some pizza.
Yeah.
By the way, that is what we're having for dinner tonight.
Yeah, we
the
are.
leftovers of
Yeah.
these 3 bottles. So.
Yeah.
Last night of our vacation. Thanks for letting me join the party.
Great.
Thank you, Nico.
Okay.
And this is great. And Rachel, if you could send around what's available, that would be great.
Yep, I'll try to get something out to you guys tomorrow along with the recording of this.
That'd be great.
We have wines left.
Thank you.
Don't worry, I keep some old vintage at the estate, so we can when we're
I'll
gonna
be
restart,
there.
we can enjoy some young, and I keep always some older vintage to show age wine. Don't worry.
Wonderful.
That's great.
Love that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nico.
Thank you.
Thanks again for everything.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
On the
Where
way.
do I go?
Bonne nuit. Bye.
See you guys. Lando, good to see you. Peter, go Pitt.
Yeah, go Pitt.
Good night, Chris.
There you go,
I like
baby.
All right, I'm going to sign off so everyone can enjoy the rest of your wines. But thanks so much for joining us, and look for something.
Thank you, Rachel. Thanks very much.
Thank you,
for doing
Rachel.
this.
Thank you.
Rachel is great.
Awesome.
I turned